let's now introduce our next speaker, and it is Bekim Sidiu. He's not Bekim. Is it Goce Karajanov? So I'm sorry, His Excellency Goce Karajanov, Consul General. It was just the flipping of the pages. Last of Okay, Consul General of Macedonia in New York. So he's been a career diplomat and foreign affairs professional. He was born in the city of Goce in 1980, so a young guy with us. In 2004, shortly after graduating from Moscow State Institute of International Relations, he joined the Macedonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where he held positions in various political departments, cabinets of the minister and the state secretary, as well as public diplomacy analytics department. So in 2008, he was posted to Prague, the Czech Republic, with the task to open the embassy of Republic of Macedonia in Prague. He served as a le charge d'affaires in the embassy of the Republic of Macedonia in Prague until January 2009. In July 2013, he was appointed the 4th Consul General of the Republic of Macedonia to New York City, and this is his last post. He is married to Kosara Karajanova. He speaks English and so forth. Welcome, Mr. Karajanov.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. So, allow me first of all to congratulate Ambassador Hoxha and Tafrov for their remarks. I have pretty same comments to make upon the European integration, so that's another proof that when it comes to Europe, we pretty much speak the same language. So I believe this is just the beginning of our cooperation today. I'm really looking forward to establishing strong working relations with the Peace Island Institute. I arrived in New York City in October last year, so this is my first public appearance, so I'm glad that it is within the public, within the Peace Island Institute. I will start my remarks by pointing out that recently I learned that the Merriam-Webster English Language Dictionary has incorporated a new word, a word that is Balkanization. According to the editors of the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, to balkanize means to break up as a region or group into smaller and often hostile units. So that's our contribution to enriching the English language. However, I'm glad that we gather here today, not only to prove that the editors of the Merriam-Webster Dictionary had been wrong, but to give evidence that words such as cooperation, integration, and support are very commonly used words in our countries and societies too. In fact, being part of the analytics team of my Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where I work, I've come to a conclusion that in every major foreign policy speech delivered by the leaders of the Balkan countries on European matters, 3 out of 10 most commonly used words were exactly the words cooperation, support, and integration. So, nevertheless, we must not only talk the talk, as it was mentioned previously, but also walk the walk when we have in mind Europe. That means that we should do genuine reforms that will bring us closer together to each other and to the EU as a whole. In fact, in the previous 2 decades, the Balkan region has experienced fundamental political, economic, social, and cultural shifts. What was once a region devastated by conflicts now is comprised of 3 new EU member states, 3 candidate countries, and 3 more taking the necessary steps towards joining the EU. As Mr. Hoxha mentioned, EU perspective served and continues to be a very powerful catalyst for democratic reforms in the Balkan countries. Also a catalyst for modernization and transformation of our societies. So I would point out that sustainable reforms aimed at consolidating democracy, rule of law, and human rights, and also improving the infrastructure and the business environment, which is very important, have been taken throughout the years, throughout the entire region. So I would say that the EU has significantly contributed to the current outlook of the Balkans, and that is why the path of the Balkans must lead to a complete European integration and nowhere else, since, in my opinion, there is no other credible alternative to the European integration for our countries. In that sense, I personally believe that the EU member states from the Balkans, I wish Mr. Stefan heard this, but still, have the biggest responsibility to preserve the credibility of the EU enlargement process and to pull all of us that are in the pipeline of the EU forward. Because historically, the peoples of the Balkans shared the same fate, and today they are sharing and they share the same values and the same vision towards Europe and towards more prosperous region. So, as we said previously, we would not be completely honest if we don't admit the challenges still lay ahead in front of all of us, and that sometimes those challenges turn into real obstacles, destroying our people's dreams for better tomorrow, unfortunately. Speaking about my country and the relations with our neighbors, I would say that they are no different than the relations of any other country in the world with its neighbors in any given region. So Macedonia has always strived, and it's our priority to establish and maintain good relations with all of our neighbors, because especially in the field of economy, because our economic development depends on the quality of our links and networks with, first and foremost, with the neighbors. Moreover, our multi-ethnic society is reflected in our cultural links with our neighbors too. So by developing political, economic, social, cultural, and other types of cooperation with the neighbors, we have exchanged many visits indeed. As Mr. Goce said, we've signed a lot of bilateral agreements. We supported each other candidacies in various multilateral forums and initiatives. We have undertaken a plethora of initiatives in the political, economic field just to improve the whole situation, not only in Macedonia, but also in the region as well. So we are pretty much ready to continue pushing forward this agenda and towards building more prosperous region. Speaking about the European integration, last year we were strongly encouraged by the success that the region had with the accession of the Croatia as the last EU member state, full-fledged member state, and the progress that both Montenegro and Serbia had in that respect. However, speaking about those success stories, I would like to remind all of you here today that Macedonia has had an EU candidate status for almost 8 years and had 5 consecutive recommendations from the Euro Commission to start the negotiations. And unfortunately 5 consecutive vetoes from one of the member states. Probably most of you know about that. So I would say that our chances to become the biggest negative precedent in the history of the enlargement process, which seriously affects the credibility of the European Union in my country, but in the region too, are quite big. What was, and I believe it still is, a cohesion factor in our society may easily turn into destabilizing force, and I believe that should not be allowed. But on the other hand, what should be allowed and done is the following. I have several things noted in my remarks. I'll be brief. First and foremost, having proper dialogue when dealing with certain problems is certainly an imperative. All the existing prejudices should be placed openly on the table, as we discussed. We should focus on fostering friendly relations because we do indeed share long-term interests and because we are inevitably connected. So centering our attention on specific projects of mutual interest can only bring us together, closer together. And secondly, since the economy has a major impact on the way the relations between given countries are developing, pursuing economic projects, and principally those concerning infrastructure and regional interconnectivity, is utterly important. Such projects play a pivotal role in reducing the unemployment, helping create new jobs, which ultimately leads to a state of progress and well-being for everyone in the region. EU funds are most drastically needed in our efforts to improve the existing infrastructure, as Ambassador Tafrov pointed out. So in that sense, the EU 2020 strategy for growth and development should be further extended to the Balkan countries, and as particularly potential candidates and potential candidates countries. That does not mean certainly that being in crisis, EU should pour money into the Balkan countries. We know the burden that EU is experiencing with some member states. But it means that the EU should set different priorities in the region than the ones in the past. If for instance, to be precise, if the instrument for pre-accession assistance, or the IPA, as we call it, was geared into institution building and adoption of the acquis in the previous period, the IPA 2 should support the transition to a new growth model based on competitive exports. For instance, the program should commit funds for large cross-border infrastructure projects in conjunction with the European Investment Bank. Such measures should upgrade the regional market and tap into new sources of growth. One thing which is very much important in our European integration is that the pro-enlargement countries, the Visegrad Group, for example, Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, should coordinate much more closely their lobbying efforts to ensure that the Balkans do not slip completely from the EU agenda. In particular, having coped with the necessary economic reforms and overcoming the difficulties more easily than some of the old member states of the EU, the member states that are located in Central and Eastern Europe should make case for further expansion and keep the big European centers as Paris and Berlin committed to the process. We do not want that our region is derailed from the path of the EU at all. And last but not least, the basic thread that we on the Balkans have to follow in regard to Europe and to improving the intergovernmental relations is that democracy should prevail over populism, ethnic exclusivity that imposes only one own interest and brings conflicts, division, and spread instabilities throughout the region. Europeans have always insisted on stability, but Europe should not want stability more in the Balkans than we in the Balkans ourselves. So that's our motto. That is why the Balkan nations and those in the EU and those who are on its doorstep should show readiness for rational agreements instead of Balkan stubbornness, unfortunately, and causing damage to others. And of course, giving reason to Merriam-Webster dictionary enrich their English language. And with persistency and with this kind of civilized approach, Europe could be established in those non-EU members, non-EU countries in the Balkans, which can attain a European perspective only with this kind of demeanor. The EU has invested a lot, indeed, in the Balkans. Now it's the time to harvest the results. Further enlargement will have positive impact on the EU, which will become stronger and more united continent. It will also contribute to the EU's commitment to act as a global actor. Therefore, our vision for the future can be achieved only if we get closer to each other and become reliable neighbors, and only if we recognize that we should learn from the past, respect each other, value our differences, while creating strong prospects for better tomorrow. Thank you very much for the attention.
Hvala, Goce. Thank you for that expose and on the new word, balkanization.
I was pretty amazed to learn that when I was doing the research, preparing my speech.
Yeah, well, there is a new word, de-Balkanization, the opposite of it. So how do we de-Balkanize the Balkans? That's the question.